This week's Parsha is Parshat Balak. This Torah is based on a shiur I heard from Rav Bernstein. It's his 2015 shiur online. And what he says is based on a work called the Maleches Machsheves. It was written about 300 years ago by Rav Moshe Cheifetz. And he actually wrote it when he was 100 years old, which is pretty amazing. And we're going to be focusing on the beginning of this parsha, and this is a different pirush than the one we gave a couple of years ago. That was by the Al-Sheikh, and this one is different. So here we go. And one of the things we're going to try to do is try to figure out why the Psukim keep using different terminology or different words when they're referring seemingly to Bnei Israel, to the Jewish people. So here we go. Vayar Balak ben Tzipor et kol asher asa Yisrael le'emori. So there you go, asher asa Yisrael. That's pretty clear who we're talking about. But then the next pasuk, that's Balak son of Tzipor, so all that Israel had done to the Amorite. I also highly recommend you have this parsha in front of you just so you can track the psukim. And it says, now here's the reaction. Vayagar Moav mipnei ha'am meod kiravu. Vayakatz Moav mipnei bnei Israel. And Moab became very frightened of the people, right? The Am. We assume that this Am is Israel, even though we just referred to them as Israel. Now it's the Am, because it was numerous. We were afraid. The Moab was afraid because they were numerous, and Moab was disgusted in the face of the children of Israel. Again, back to the children of Israel. Not entirely sure why the psukim are changing. And then Vayomer Moab el ziknei Midian, Ata yelachachu hakal et kol svotenu kilchoch hashor et yer kasadeh uvalak ben Tzipor melech Moab ba'itahi. Right, now the congregation, Moab said to the elders of Midian, now the congregation, again a different term, will look up our entire surroundings as an ox looks up the green of the field. Balak son of Tzipor was king of Moab at that time. Now, we have a number of questions. What is behind all of these different phraseologies? So let's go from the beginning again. Balak son of Tzipor saw that Israel had done to the Amorite. That's clear, right? That's Israel. Can't get more clear than that. Then Moab became, now instead of Balak, we talk about Moab's reaction. Moab became very frightened of the people. Okay, so they were afraid. Why? Because it was numerous. Kirafu. Now the problem with that is if we go to verse 6, we'll see, this is Balak's request of Bilam, V'atal lecha na'arali. Why? Et amazeh ki atzum hu mimeni. Right, so now please come and curse these people for me, for it is too powerful for me. Atzum is strong. So earlier, in the earlier pasuk, it seems like the reason why Moab is afraid is because kiravu, because they're numerous. Yet here, when Balak speaking to Bilam, he's saying it's ki atumu, because they're too strong. So which one is it? Is it because they're much more numerous than Moab, or is it because they're stronger than Moab? Not entirely sure what's happening. Fine, but then we see at the end of that third pasuk, vayakatz Moab mipnei bnei Israel, and so Moab was disgusted with bnei Israel. Why? Then it says, "Vayomer Moab el ziknei Midian." Right. So then here's Moab's reaction. They say to the elders of Midian, "Ata yilachachu hakal et kol svotenu." Right. This congregation is going to come and we'll lick up our entire surroundings. Right. Kilchoch hashor et yer kasadeh, as an ox licks up the green over the field. Now we have to wonder if Moab is really terrified of the Jewish people, right? Because they're going to come in. They're so numerous, or they're so strong, or whichever one it is. Why are you waxing poetic now? After all, if you're worried for your life about this invading army that's coming to get you, you're really going to start speaking poetry? Can you imagine? First, imagine back in 1967 when Bnei Israel were worried about the Syrians and all the Arab armies coming in to invade. Then the Arab armies they'll sweep in here as the wind blows. What are you saying? You're really talking in such poetic language that as an ox looks up the field. Just talk about how we're worried. Israel is coming. The enemy is approaching. That's what it should say. So why are we waxing poetic? Then Balak son of Tzipor was king of Moab at that time. So the Maleches Machsheves has a unique pirush on what is going on here. That is to say, it's a little odd that if Moab is afraid, they would say that, we're worried. They'd start, speaking in such a, poetic terms about what they're worried the Jewish people will do. Because if you read closely, it really doesn't seem like Moab is actually afraid of what Israel is going to do to them. Why not? Because what does it say? It says, "Vayer Moab el ziknei Midian, ata yelachachu hakahal et kol svotenu." They lick up all of our surroundings. That seems to say that we're not really worried about ourselves. Moab isn't concerned about the threats themselves. They're more concerned about what's going to happen around them. Well, why? And now, as background information, it's important to realize that actually the Jewish people are forbidden from waging war with Moab. We only see this in Dvarim. It effectively says you shall not wage war with Moab. And now we need to figure out, okay, well, does Moab know this? And truth is, seems like they actually do know it. Why is that? Because just in last week's parsha, we saw that Moshe had sent Malachim, he had sent messengers into Edom at first and asked, can we go through? And the Torah also commands us to not wage war with Edom. Edom said, you cannot come through. So he turned away and left. Now, it's true we destroyed the Amorite, but Moab has a lot more in common with Edom, right, who shares a Jewish root with us, right, who in terms of who shares our ancestry. So too Moab has a certain merit through Lot, right, Abraham's nephew, and therefore Moab has more in connection with Edom, and it seems like Moab actually does know that Israel is forbidden from waging war with them. So why are they worried? Now some of Farshim say, well, hang on, maybe that's because there is something that's alluded to in these different terminologies. Yisrael, the Am. Now it's well known, and this will introduce us to where we want to go. Yisrael, whenever that's used to refer to the Jewish people, that generally has a sense of elevation. That's an elevated way of speaking about the Jewish people. So those are like the kind of the upper echelons of the Jewish people in terms of spiritual prowess and accomplishment. The Am are just regular people. So maybe Moab knows that because Israel are forbidden from waging war against them, the Israel group, they're not going to wage war with us. But you never know what the Am is going to do, right? The everyman, are they going to adhere to this biblical commandment not to wage war with them? After all, people do tend to get carried away. Maybe that's what they're worried about. That's not what the Maleches Machsheves says. He offers a stunning chiddush. He says like this. Says, the Am that's referred to in this psukim is not Bnei Israel. It's the Emori. Now, where does he get this from? So if we're to just turn back, right, by one page if you're in ArtScroll, just a few psukim to last week's parsha, we see that it's true. The Jewish people conquered Heshbon. We not only conquered Heshbon in terms of defeated their armies, we also did something else. If we look at chapter 21, verse 32, Vayishlach Moshe l'ragel et Yazer vayilkedu b'notea vayorish et Amori asher sham. Moses sent to spy out Jazer, and they conquered its suburbs, and he drove away the Amorite that was there. That's one of the things that Moshe did. We, the Jewish people, kicked the Amori out of their land, and we took it. So now what happens is, once that happened, there's now this new group called the Amori refugees. Now our question is, well, where are they going to go? And now what's the next land along the way? Moab. And that explains the psukim. Vayadar Moab nipnei ha'am me'od. Right? Moab was very afraid of the Am. Who's this Am? The Amori refugees. Why? Ki ravu, because they're so numerous. There's so many of them. Then vayakatz Moab mipnei bnei Israel. And so Moab was disgusted because of Bnei Israel, because we had defeated the Amorite. Now it's true. You could say, well, hang on a second. Israel was just defending themselves. The Amori went to attack Israel. But Moab's like, whatever, that's history. And whatever, it's not the first time that the Jewish people have had against them. Now we fought a defensive war, and then we won, and then suddenly we're to blame. And then it goes on. So now Moab is worried. That explains what their reaction is. They go to Midian, their neighbors, and they say, look, right? Now, the congregation will lick up our entire surroundings as an ox licks up the greenery of the field. These people are going to take all our resources. A bunch of consumers have come here, and they're going to take everything that we have. Because the Amor come along and they see Moab, they're like, wow, this is a pretty great land to settle in, so maybe this is where we'll be. And Moab doesn't want to hear of it. They don't want it. But that also explains this explanation of why Moab is afraid of the Amorite, because they're Rav. That explains why later on when Balak is speaking to Bilam, it says, Balak is worried about the Jewish people because the Jewish people are stronger than him. It's not that they're bigger, it's that they're stronger than him. They just defeated the Amorite. And so now Balak needs to figure out, okay, well, how do we deal with this problem, with this refugee problem? Now there are two ways you could possibly respond. You could either take them in and host them, but apparently this isn't even considered. Rather, he says, look, instead of taking them in, what we could do is we could banish the Jewish people from there. Now that's what he says. Because he says, They're stronger than me, so I need you, Bilam, to weaken them for me. Ulai uchal nakebo vagarshenu min haaretz. Kedati et asher tebarach mevorach asher toor you are. Right? Why? For it is too powerful for me. Perhaps I will be able to strike it and drive it from the land. If we're able to drive the Jewish people from the land, right, from the Amorite land, then problem solved. The Emori will just go back to their land. Now, normally the way we read this pasuk, we'll understand that what Balak is telling Bilam is, we'll drive them from the land, i.e., from our land, from Moab's land. But quite frankly, if Agarshenu min Aretz, it doesn't make sense to say that we're going to drive the Jewish people from our land, from Moab's land, because you're not driving them out. You're just stopping them from entering. Driving them from the land, this all fits in to say, no, we're looking to drive them from the Amorites' land. We want them to be banished from there, so that this way this new refugee group can just go back to where they came from and not take all of our resources. That's the concern. There's more to say here, but I feel compelled to stop here. We've already gone long enough. See you next week. Shabbat Shalom.